everybody, and welcome to the show. Big show today. Lots of news. Really kind of a crazy news day. You know, the Diddy thing is huge. And I got to tell you guys, the Diddy thing is so much worse than I realized. Now, I've looked at it a little bit here or there, but I really kind of did a dive on this. The Diddy sex trafficking scandal and corruption is just, I mean, it's Epstein Jr. on a massive scale and being covered up by Comey's daughter in the same way. I mean, just garbage. It's unbelievable, the corruption on this. I'm furious. The more I've looked at this, the worse it is. And this is disgusting. We should be appalled by this. Pam Bondi's DOJ is an absolute embarrassment. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to tell you about it. I don't know. You know, listen, I'm so sick of, oh, we busted this ring, we busted that ring. Oh, we really care about child sex predators. Yeah, you do, unless they're rich and connected. Unless they're rich and connected. If it's rich and connected, you don't give a damn. That's what's going on here. This is unbelievable. It's disgusting the way that we've done this. The charges brought were inexcusable. The way this was done is inexcusable. I find this to be appalling on levels that I can't even begin to describe, and we're going to get into that. We're also going to get into Bobby. So Bobby's got some interesting things. He came out in this study. He talked about the 1,135% increase in autism for kids who received the hepatitis vaccine. It's true. I mean, I don't know what to say about it. The way that the media's tried to cover it up, the way that Google and all the big tech has tried to cover it up, they're just outright liars. Corruption. And meanwhile, the one thing that nobody wants to talk about is the gene therapy stuff. The gene therapy stuff is critical, and it's going on, and no one's doing a damn thing about it. Listen, I'm going to make a prediction today, folks. I think there's a very good chance that Anthony Fauci ends up in jail. You hear me? I think that. I do. I think or at least tried for something criminally. He'll be brought up on some sort of charges. I think there's a good chance of that. I think there's a good chance that a lot of this stuff happens. They're going to focus on the creation of COVID. They're going to really focus on that. What they're not going to focus on is mRNA vaccines, though. That's not going to happen because that's a threat to the mRNA platform and everything else, and they won't touch that because of corruption. We're going to get into more of that. There is a lot to talk about today. And I guess if there's a single theme today, the theme should be the disgusting corruption that we see everywhere. Hey, hello, Bob. We got Bob here. Barakat. Barakat? I don't know how to say your name, Barakat, but I hope I got it right. Hello. Feel free to jump us in the comments everywhere else. We're going to keep pushing on everything, but lots to talk about. Also, we're going to try and get to Alligator Alcatraz today because I think that's fun. That's really interesting. Hey, we're going to put you in prison here. You can go ahead and break out if you want, but you're surrounded by alligators. So I think that's hilarious. Yeah, it's funny because the prison itself, I mean, it looks very clean and humane and wonderful and all that sort of stuff. It's just, I don't think you want to try and escape from that prison. I think you almost want to stay in it. So we're going to hit some of that. Lots of stuff to talk about today. So before I do, please remember to support us. GiveSendGo.com/Renslaw. GiveSendGo.com/Renslaw. Become a monthly supporter. $20 a month, a cup of coffee a week, right? Give whatever you can. Your support keeps us going. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep doing whatever we can. But we really appreciate your support. And becoming a monthly donor or giving whatever you can is a huge deal for us. We really do need your help and your backing. Also, go to as always, you got to go to TomRenz.com, www.tomrenz.com, which you have to type because you can't search Tom Renz. On Google, all you get is hit pieces on me. If you want to actually find TomRenz.com, you have to go to it. But go there, click shop, our partners and affiliates. Get there. Of course, Block Trust is awesome. We support them. DALSA, make sure you're supporting DALSA. This is a great company. I love these guys. Lots of good people here. Scroll down. By the way, Nessa's hemp, best hemp product on the market. There is a difference. Lots of good stuff. We got to scroll down. Touchstone Essentials. Today I want to highlight Touchstone. Make sure you're checking them out. Lots of great detox from Touchstone. Great company. Introduced to me by Sherry Tenpenny, so I trust them. And good people. Also, today I want to remind you guys, listen, this is it, right? This is it, home title lock. Listen, if you're a homeowner, I need you to listen to this. Today's AI cyberworld scammers are stealing home titles. Your equity is a target. Here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on one document. They use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee with your county. Just like that, your home title has been transferred out of your name. They take out loans using your equity. They sell your property. You won't even know what's happening, right? Until you get a collection or foreclosure notice. When's the last time you checked your home title, folks? I've never done it until I joined Home Title Lock. If your answer is never, you need to do something about that right now. That's why I partnered with Home Title Lock, so you can find out today if you're already a victim. Use promo code RENS at HometitleLock.com, and you'll get a free title and history report and a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts, any changes to it. And if fraud does happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. Listen, I decided to partner with Home Title Lock because it's a real issue, right? Especially, I want to really especially talk to my seniors. If you've spent your whole life building up equity in your home, you don't want to have some crook come in and steal it. I didn't realize how big of an issue this is or how big of a problem it's become until I really dug into it. And then that's why I partnered with these guys. Home Title Lock, good people. We just interviewed one of their guys, former FBI agent, not too long ago. Great interview. These guys are top notch. Make sure you're supporting them. Just look into it. You get a free trial. It's a wonderful product. I use it myself. I am actually a member of Home Title Lock. So please continue to support them and support us. All right. Without further ado, I want to get into some of these issues. And I want to start out with Diddy, right? And I've got notes. I got all sorts of notes. We got my Grok notes. I've got my my personal notes. I got all sorts of things. Well, you know what's interesting when you get notes from Grok? How many searches you have to do to get to the actual data. Grok has really been politicized. I mean, it's really bad right now. I'll show you guys when I get to it. I was asking about RFK. I was working with Grok to try and get the stuff on RFK and his autism study. Man, it was crazy. It took me, I don't know, half a dozen to a dozen inquiries to get Grok to actually tell me the truth about anything. Grok is really politically biased. And I know Elon is doing some work on that. And listen, Elon, please hurry it up. I love the idea of Grok, but man, it does a terrible job right now. It's so biased. I got to check out Enoch. You know, my buddy Mike Adams has at Brighteon. I think it's at Brighteon.ai. I'm not sure. I have to check, but he's got an AI over there that's supposed to be unbiased, and I need to check it out. I know he's been working on it for a while. I think it just launched, so I'm gonna have to check that one out because Mike's a good dude. He's very controversial, very plain spoken, but he has a good heart and he's a good man, and he's a big fan of peace and of humanity, and I really like him. Just a good dude. So. Anyways, so let's get into this Diddy stuff, right? So we got the Diddy stuff, and the reason I got this Grok stuff up that I started out with is a nice summary of what's there, but what I really want to hit is what's not, right? So according to Grok, doing some homework, charges filed against Diddy, right? So you got racketeering conspiracy. So they alleged Combs led a criminal enterprise involving crimes like kidnapping, arson, sex trafficking, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a huge deal, potential life in prison. This is a very, very big thing, right? And this, along with sex trafficking by force, fraud, coercion, transportation to engage in prostitution, 5 counts total, right? 2 sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, 2 for transportation, engage in prostitution. But the racketeering is the big one, right? The racketeering. And you need to understand that with that, they allege a criminal enterprise. Now, I want to talk about this, right? Because what's in this case, and they dropped, by the way, they dropped attempted kidnapping, attempted arson, aiding and abetting in sex trafficking. They dropped those charges. Now, you've got James Comey's daughter as one of the prosecutors on here, and she has a funny way of showing up on every case that involves high-profile sex trafficking, Epstein-type stuff, Diddy-type stuff. And it's interesting because you got these same sort of people showing up in all these different things. Now, when we look at the Diddy case, and, you know, that's interesting. I got a big post. It actually, we just started on Instagram that long ago. It's my first 1 million+ viral post on Instagram. I think I'm attorney Tom Rems on Instagram. But we're just kind of growing that platform right now. I posted about it, and it's a different platform, and that's, we get kind of an echo chamber with a lot of conservative voices. Instagram is a much more, I mean, you get a lot of people on Instagram you wouldn't normally hear from if you're on X, right? And as I posted it, there's a huge, huge amount of sharing and discussion about it. And what I said on there was that, if they're dropping these charges and doing all this nonsense, that the DOJ ought to be investigated, because this just seems like corruption to me. Now, in the Diddy case, let's think about this. You reportedly have thousands and thousands of hours of tapes of rich and famous people engaging in sex acts with potentially underage people, definitely with prostitutes, definitely with things like that. I mean, if these tapes are what they're reported to be, then you have some very, very serious evidence. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean as a lawyer, as a prosecutor? Well, why would you have tapes of some rich celebrity screwing around with some prostitute who may well be underage, and according to reports, frequently were underage? Why would you have that? If not to blackmail, if not to do something with it, right? Now, if you've got as many hours of that as are claimed in the Diddy case, then that means that that there's evidence of some crazy crime stuff here. Now, again, let's go back to this Instagram thing. So I post on Instagram that we need to look at the DOJ. Why aren't they going after this properly? And it was crazy, because since it's Diddy, I get this whole racial nonsense. I don't care what color you are. That's completely irrelevant to me. In fact, I would go so far as to say, as an attorney, that, when particularly my black brothers and sisters speak and say that they don't always get a fair shake, I would argue that that's probably true in many cases. And I would argue that it's probably more based on your socio-economic situation than it is on the color of your skin. But I do agree that it's probably true. So, like, the race thing doesn't have anything to do with this, right? What I got an issue with is a guy who was on tape beating up his girlfriend, and who allegedly has thousands of hours of tape where he's screwing around with kids. I don't care whether he's black or white; that's irrelevant. But that kind of became a big topic, and it was interesting because you have kind of this breakdown. You have, like, a lot of the hip hop guys are speaking out, and the hip hop guys were, Diddy's okay. And then a lot of the women were saying, hell no, right? I don't even think it's a male-female thing. I mean, obviously him beating up his girlfriend is a male-female thing. But I think the issue here is you have a guy that appears to be a predator, who appears to have been engaged in, this criminal enterprise for blackmail and all these other things. And there's plenty of evidence to bring the charges. The discovery and the evidence and the charges brought are really the key here. And I want you guys to understand this. This is where I've got an issue. The way that this case proceeded, it proceeded in a way that was very, very careful not to reveal the identities of the people who were engaged in the sex with minors, if assuming that occurred, right? And for the rest of this conversation, I'm just going to make this is all alleged. We can't say for sure what's happened, what's not. So, I'm not going to say allegedly 1,000 times, but it is alleged. If you have these tapes of all these guys who are engaged with prostitutes and engaged with this and engaged with that, then what you have, even if they're of age, then Diddy that is a RICO case. That is a racketeering corrupt organizations, because essentially he had a conspiracy. He was bringing in other people. There were more than one people involved. There was a conspiracy to get these tapes, to get this stuff, to do whatever is necessary, presumably for blackmail. But regardless, the act of bringing in prostitutes and making money off of it, or engaging in some sort of a conspiracy to get that stuff, that is a RICO type case. Now, when they talk about the RICO in this case, it's hard to imagine that you don't focus on the people who were involved in the criminal conspiracy, right? The people who were the targets, the people who were involved. So if you were to launch a RICO case against a drug cartel, the dealers and the people buying are really kind of key to this, right? You can't demonstrate a criminal enterprise, a criminal conspiracy without looking at the whole thing. And there's just so much of this that was left out of this case. And the only reason you would leave this out as an attorney, in my opinion, is to protect the people who were involved. Well, these are people listen, prostitution's illegal. Whether it's of age or not of age, it's still illegal. You don't have to protect the John. I mean, listen, we have regular poor people, blue collar people who get arrested for prostitution all the time, or for buying a prostitute, right? There are stings where police officers will pretend to be prostitutes and then they will arrest the Johns. It's illegal to buy a hooker in most states, right? So this is an issue. Why wasn't that part of this? Why wouldn't you go after the Johns? Why wouldn't you include the Johns? Why wouldn't you include all this? The only explanation is that they're trying to protect people, that they're trying to keep things, I don't know, whatever. That is completely unacceptable, folks. It is completely unacceptable. Now, again, you've got James Comey there, daughter there, who, had some involvement in the Epstein case as well. And by the way, Pam Bondi was AG in Florida while Epstein was allegedly doing his sex parties in his Florida mansion. Did she turn a blind eye to it? I mean, it looks like it, because everybody on the planet knew that they were happening. Everybody knew that Epstein was doing this down in Florida. We've talked to Maha Mike a bunch of times, who went to high school where they were recruiting young girls to come and have sex with rich people at Epstein. Did Bondi do anything about this? No. Now we've got the Diddy trial, and instead of going after this aggressively, she puts James Comey's daughter on the case. What the hell are you thinking? I mean, listen, I can't prove that Bondi's a bad guy, but it's just, she worked for Pfizer up until she started as AG. She turned a blind eye to Epstein. She's not arresting any Democrats, any major people. I love Trump, but his DOJ is not getting it done. Now, I'm not knocking Cash and Bongino. I know they're doing work, but remember, they work for Bondi. I have questions about Bondi and her loyalty. I have questions about what she's doing. She worked with Susie Wiles at Ballard Partners. We've got concerns about Susie. I mean, we brought that up before. And to this day, nobody's talking about it. And when we get to the mRNA and the COVID stuff, that sort of stuff, again, you got these people who are all tied in with Big Pharma who are not doing anything. Well, the same people largely turned a blind eye, not all the same people, but turned a blind eye to what was going on with Epstein. How many things have to occur before we start asking questions? I'm not saying that they're bad for sure. I'm saying that no one will even talk about it. And this Epstein debacle is an absolute disaster. It looks like he's getting off on the racketeering. He's getting off on all the big charges. It's going to be a slap on the wrist. He's going to get nothing real out of this. If a guy like me, if a regular Joe did this sort of stuff, we'd be in jail for 3 lifetimes. We'd never see the light of day. But he had videotapes on the rich and the famous. Was Diddy part of the same group of people? Was he part of the same crew that was blackmailing as Epstein? Was Diddy another part? I mean, because listen, Epstein was quite clearly tied to an international conspiracy, right? I mean, there's all sorts of stories about who's got the Epstein tapes now, where they're at. And by the way, we don't hear anything about Epstein. Was Diddy part of the same crew? Did the same people that had the Epstein tapes have the Diddy tapes? What's going on with all that, right? I think we need to really start looking into this. We need to start really asking ourselves what's happening. Folks, I don't know what's going on in all these cases. There's a lot of things that are not public and that we're speculating about. But at the end of the day, there's enough questions to be asked that it seems very concerning. The problem with Diddy isn't the color of his skin. The problem with Diddy is that there's video of him beating up some woman, and that there's more evidence or alleged evidence of him running a sex trafficking ring for blackmail than anybody can count, but yet our DOJ can't seem to find a way to get a conviction. The conviction's pretty easy to do if you put out real evidence, if you do proper discovery, but where was it? Certainly wasn't included, was it? Seems like they worked very hard to not include anything that might actually, listen, we've all heard the names of the people who are allegedly involved in the Diddy world. We've all heard that. What's going on here? We really got to ask this. Now, why it is, and interestingly, when I looked at Grok, and I asked Grok about this, Grok listed on its kind of rundown, charges dropped or not pursued, right? And the only thing it listed was attempted kidnapping, attempted arson, aiding and abetting, and sex trafficking. Okay? And it says prosecutors abandoned these as separate charges before the jury deliberated. It matters because dropping these charges weakened the prosecution's case, reducing the scope of alleged crimes, and potentially offering the jury perception of Combs' culpability. The dropping those charges was a prosecutorial disaster. Everything about the way this case was handled, to me, looks like it was about protecting the wealthy, protecting the connected, and at the same time doing everything possible to ensure that they put this crap case out there for Diddy. Diddy is not getting off because of an incredible play by his defense team. Diddy is getting off because our DOJ didn't want to put it to him. If they put the same effort into Diddy that they did J6 defendants or Roger Stone or any of these guys that they went after on Trump's team, would have been hands down, Diddy would have been gone forever, in my opinion. But instead, sex trafficking. Rich and famous. Powerful and elite. Seems like every time the rich, powerful, and elite get into trouble, there's someone having their back. Whenever guys like you and I get in trouble, and listen, I say this to my brothers and sisters, on especially those that were on Instagram that were speaking out saying that this was about race. To my brothers and sisters who got a different color skin than me. Listen, we're all Americans. We're all subject to the law. I agree with you. The law is not being equally applied. But defending Diddy is not about getting justice. Defending Diddy is injustice. The law should be applied whether you're rich or whether you're not. Color of your skin should never be relevant. But Diddy's getting treated with kid gloves. And it ain't because of the color of his skin. It's because he's rich, he's connected, and allegedly he has evidence of other powerful rich people. It's the rich, powerful connections that are protecting Diddy on this. And I believe 100% he was being protected. So, folks, this whole thing is disgusting. I think he was convicted on the prostitution stuff. The racketeering stuff went away. I mean, this whole thing is appalling, and it was done intentionally this way because, in my opinion, because he's rich and wealthy. They brought in Comey's daughter to make this look like it was a case, even though it wasn't. It was whitewashed. It was handled poorly at best. This whole thing is fraud, corruption, and garbage, in my opinion. And we, the people, should be furious. We should be absolutely furious about this. I don't even know what to say about it. This is appalling on every level. And by the way, we got some good people commenting here. Ron says charges are going to be swept under the rug. No question about that. This sobering circumstances, post-political era, post-justice era. That's true. Absolutely, Mario. Justice for the plebes has a different standard than justice for the stakeholders. Dead right. That's what's happening. And that's the real problem here, right? And it's used to create a racial divide in this country, and it's completely inappropriate. The justice divide in this country, I don't think, and I say this as an attorney, I don't think it's as much about race. I don't know. I can't tell you, I couldn't list a single judge that I know, not one, that is in any way, shape, or form racist. Not one. Leftist, right? I mean, some of the leftists, push kind of the race baiting stuff, But generally speaking, I don't know any judges that would make a decision on someone based on the color of their skin. What I do know is that the way someone who is rich and powerful is prosecuted is wildly different than the way that MAGA people or poor people or other people are prosecuted. That's the problem. And what they want, the left likes to make us think that it's about racism. It's not about racism. It's about who you know. It's about preserving the political status quo. If there's racism, it's on the left trying to push this political status quo. And that's something that we all need to fight. So anyways, there's lots more on this. I want to hit, but I want to hit some other things. We have so much stuff. By the way, just so you know, Maureen Comey, right? That's his daughter. James' daughter, James Comey, the FBI guy. He's been awful. It's if you don't know Comey, you should. Maureen's involvement, no one thinks this is an accident. Nobody believes that it's Comey's daughter. Everybody's looking at this as a whitewash deal. But I want to get this, right? There's missing witnesses. There's a key witness, victim 3, right? This person seems to be missing, right? Why is this person missing? It was referred to, it was there, but there's nothing there. She just kind of disappeared, right? It's a question there. By the way, it was a Biden appointed judge. I don't know whether that matters. But the discovery is really key here, right? We want to know why the discovery wasn't handled differently, why they weren't going after different charges, things like that. Why was that so suppressed? Why was that done so weakly? So anyways, I just think this whole thing was a whitewash. I think it's nonsense, and it's sick. So I want to move on because we got a lot to hit today. Let's talk about Coeur d'Alene. That's Idaho, by the way, folks. Coeur d'Alene is a beautiful town in northern Idaho. I've been there. I love the place. It's absolutely beautiful. It's just a wonderful mountain paradise type place. Beautiful property, beautiful land. Idaho's a great state. Very, very conservative state. And I didn't get to this earlier in the week, and I got it. Yeah, I was a volunteer fireman for a number of years. I loved being a fireman. I think it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I wish I had the time to do it now. It was just one of the greatest experiences of my life. It was hard. It's a very difficult job. It's the best and worst job ever. If you save someone, it's like the greatest high ever. When you lose someone, it's devastating. It's really, it's devastating. But it's a wonderful, wonderful job. And so we got the first responders that show up for a brush fire in Idaho, and they get there, and the fire was set intentionally by this 20-year-old nutbag, Wes Rowley. And this guy, he starts the fire, gets him there, and then he ambushes him from a tree, shooting him. He just starts shooting these firefighters who are showing up to, try and stop the fire. This guy, to me, listen, a fireman doesn't show up for anything other than to save your house and save your family. We didn't show up. We're not into law enforcement. So God bless our police officers. But, maybe you don't like them because they're going to arrest you or deal with law or whatever. Firemen, all we do is we run into the building, right? We run into the building. We get the people out. There's no reason to ever got to have beef with a fireman or EMS. I can't even imagine. But this guy sets it up to ambush these guys. Starts killing them. It was sick. I think there was 2 dead and 1 injured. And God bless them. May God bless their families. I pray for them. It's sad, man. You don't want your brothers. You're going to fires with someone that's family, right? Your life's in their hands. Their life's in your hands. That becomes family real quick, right? Not many people do that or understand that, but it's a big deal. And for these guys to get shot like that, I pray for this department. This Raleigh guy, apparently nuts. Looks like he killed himself, but it's hard to say. He exchanged fire. There were a ton of people. there are 300 people going after law enforcement officers going after this guy all over in the manhunt. They were shooting back and forth. It's not clear whether he shot himself or got shot, but he's dead. May God decide what's best for his soul. I won't wish anybody hell, but this guy was something special. And like I said, it makes me sick, to be honest with you folks. This whole thing it really breaks my heart. I can't imagine, we're showing up to try and save property, save whatever, and someone's shooting and killing your brothers and sisters. I don't know. So anyways, I pray for our country. If we've gotten to the point where that seems acceptable, I don't even know. All right. Alligator Alcatraz. I love this. I love the whole thing. This is a very big deal. One of the biggest things is credit to DeSantis. He got this thing built in 8 days. He said if it wasn't red tape, it would have been faster. I want to play this for you.
This is we're offering up our National Guard and other folks in Florida to be deputized to be immigration judges. We're working with the Department of Justice for the approvals. I'm sure Pam will approve. But then I'll have a National Guard judge advocate here. Someone has a notice to appear. Biden would tell them to come back in 3 years and appear. Now you'll be able to appear in like a day or two. So they're not going to be detained, hopefully, for all that long. We'll have people here in this facility that can make, it's a bureaucracy.
Well, hopefully the left is excited about that. There's no more long holding times. That's right to speedy trial. There you go, left. You should thank DeSantis.
The president's got to deal with the bureaucracy. Now, that Supreme Court ruling was good because that's going to allow him to be able to exercise Article 2 the way founders intended. But you still have bureaucracy. So we want to cut through that so that we have an efficient operation between Florida and DHS to get the removal of these illegal.
Okay, so first thing, I'm sorry about this, folks. I like what DeSantis is doing here, so I don't mean to be bad. But my understanding is that DeSantis is really short, and Trump is like 6'4". He's like my height. He's a big dude. Now, there's reports that DeSantis wears like platform shoes to look taller. I don't know if that's what's happening here, but it's interesting to see him almost as tall as Trump. I don't know. Just a sideline. Listen, I have nothing but praise for DeSantis on this. He's doing a great job. And I want to bring up, so DeSantis is talking about, deputizing National Guardsmen as immigration judges. That's awesome. Like, this whole plan is brilliant. You can get these illegals there. You can give them their required hearing that the Supreme Court is insisting on, which I don't, listen, that's fine. Fine. So we create this really efficient system. They're in Alligator Alcatraz. They get their hearing 3 days. Boom, gone, right? Deported. This is a really, really cool thing, the way that they're doing this. It's slick as can be. And I got to give a lot of credit to Trump and DeSantis on this. And the fact that DeSantis has worked with Trump on this really is a credit to him. Now, I don't know. Personally, I don't know DeSantis. Some of the stuff he's done, I go back and forth. I'm not as big of a fan. So Jenna Ellis is a big fan of his, and I like Jenna. I think she does a great job. There's a lot of other people that are big fans of his. I think Steve Deasy's a big fan. People, and I respect Jen and Steve. I don't know DeSantis, so I don't really know what I think about him. I don't have any issues. I had some questions during COVID, but he seems to work those all out. There's a lot of allegations here and there, but I don't really put much stock into allegations because it's politics. But anyways, DeSantis is doing right here, and he's doing a great job on it. So this is really cool. The whole Alligator Alcatraz thing is really remarkable. This is just, and let me show you this. I want to show you this one too, because this is so 8 days, folks. 8 days they build this. Look at this. Clean facility, nice. It's prison, but it's prison. So of course it's prison, but you've got, it's, I don't know what else you can ask for. It's a hell of a lot better than prisons in El Salvador. So I think it's remarkable that they were able to do this so quickly. I think it's really a neat thing. And if they deputize the judges like they're talking about, that's going to be a huge, huge deal because they'll just fly through this stuff. It'll be a huge impact on the immigration. Then Trump will really be able to start getting that deportation thing moving. It's like he just had to build the infrastructure and get through all the crap. The Supreme Court's ruled, what the law is on a lot of this stuff. We're good on that. We understand all that. So, now Trump and DeSantis really have a nice, smooth thing here. So I'm very excited about this. And I'm very optimistic. I don't see anything. I don't personally see anything that I see as being like bad or terrible about this. I don't see anything that I've got issue with. It looks to me like it's just a good thing and being done well. So I'm pretty excited about that and where it is. We'll see. But again, how cool is it that we built essentially an island prison in the middle of a swamp surrounded by alligators? Not going to be a whole lot of desire to break people out or to break in or to break out. I don't think there's going to be anybody trying to raid or this prison. I don't think any of the ICE protesters are going to bother showing up out there. If they do, they can contend with all the alligators around the prison. Literally everything about this seems brilliant to me. And I don't think there's going to be too many protests out there in the middle of the swamp. I mean, it's literally the middle of a swamp. I mean, it's just, it's everything that a swamp is. Snakes and alligators and, all sorts of nasty critters that you just don't want to mess with. Here's actually a nice little picture. You got this here in the middle of, well, if you've ever flown over the Everglades, you look down and you see this forever, just nothing. It's huge. It's a huge, huge area. You fly over it, and you'll see water here and there because the whole thing is nothing but a swamp. But it's an interesting thing. Like I said, I don't think anybody's going to want to get out of there. So it's not too far from Dade Collier. They can hold 5,000. That's a pretty big thing. Done in 8 days. Look and see if there's anything else. I mean, of course, there were complaints about the environmental concerns, which is absurd. But generally speaking, this thing has really gone without a hitch. I love the alligator Alcatraz. I'm just going to keep coming back to that. All right. So Rand Paul is apparently going after Fauci, and I want to tie this all together. This is probably going to take a fair bit of time for me to get through, probably the rest of the show. Rand Paul is going to go after Fauci. He's bringing Fauci under subpoena. He's got to testify under oath about COVID-19. Now, we've heard this all before, and nobody cares because it doesn't matter. I mean, people lie to Congress all the time. If you're a Republican and you lie to Congress or you don't show up, you get charged criminally and thrown in jail. If you're a Democrat or if you're Anthony Fauci, you can lie to Congress 100 times and nobody will do anything about it. That's kind of what we're seeing and what's going on. And honestly, that is they're trying to make a big stink. Oh, Rand Paul's going to subpoena Fauci and they're going to talk about it. They got all this data on Wuhan now. Folks, in 2022, I sent to Congress the whistleblower data about the origins of COVID, right? We had the whistleblower data. Andrew Huff, worked at EcoHealth Alliance. It was all corroborated by independent everything. We knew in 2022 what happened. The Senate report came out, the House report came out, White House report came out. All these reports have came out. We know what's happening here. Okay, we know it was created in the Wuhan lab. We know it was funded by DARPA, the military, the CIA, the USAID. We know that Fauci was in support of this and involved in it. We know all this. Why the dog and pony show? Why are we still trying to act like this is the deal? The problem with COVID wasn't just its creation. It was its creation for the purpose of pushing the mRNA jabs. And I admire that Rand Paul is still going after this, but do you know what Rand Paul is not going after? Mark my words, Rand Paul will not say a word, nor will any of this stuff have anything to do with the creation of the mRNA COVID jabs. Now, I've also presented evidence to Congress people that the mRNA COVID jabs, the Moderna at least, was in existence in 2015. Do you think they're going to bring that up? Do you think they're going to do anything with that? Nope. This is a dog and pony show, folks. I believe this is a dog and pony show. And I think it's part of a larger dog and pony show. The Maha world is in an uproar over the mRNA poisons. We're still mad about COVID. There's been no justice for anybody. And they need a scapegoat, and they need a scapegoat that's going to allow them to focus away from mRNA, because the gene therapy drugs are off limits. Bobby's not allowed to touch them. That's pretty clear, because we know Bobby's got issues with it. He's talked about it for years. He knows what's going on with these mRNA poisons. Yet, we just approved the next spike Moderna drug. Why is that? Well, because it's off limits. Remember, Wiles, Bondi, all these people were involved with Big Pharma. Okay. Where does that leave us? Well, if the president, which the president has said that he's going to work with Palantir or Oracle or Larry Ellis or whoever, and they're going to create AI-based mRNA vaccines to cure cancer in 48 hours. He had that press conference very early, and just gets in the White House, first thing he says, right? And I believe President Trump truly believes this. Trump is a good dude, and he's doing his best, but he's got bad people around him. So Trump thinks he's going to cure cancer with the mRNA platform. And I've got from a number of states, every time someone says they're going to ban mRNA, they say, you can ban COVID, don't ban mRNA, because we're going to cure cancer with it. So this is what pharma and the industry is telling everybody. And it's being backed by big tech. Now, big tech and big pharma, same stockholders. But the mRNA platform is being preserved. They will do anything to preserve the mRNA platform. There are too many of us too angry about COVID for them to whitewash us anymore, okay? They've been trying for years now to whitewash it. But they really miscalculated. They overplayed their hand on COVID to such a dramatic extent that we just aren't willing to forget. And that's what's happening. So people are still mad about COVID, and their loved ones are still dying from the COVID vaccines. And everybody knows it. Even people like Dr. Drew are now talking about it, right? Very high profile people. Bobby and everybody knows that they get in there and they can't even get access to the data. The Secretary of Health and Human Services is not being given proper access to certain data. Can you imagine the corruption involved? So what we've got going on then is a situation where they're trying to make sure that they assuage the public anger and outcry over COVID while still being able to preserve the purpose of COVID, which was mRNA vaccines. The gene therapy vaccines, there's been tens of trillions of dollars with a T invested globally on this, right? This is a huge, huge thing. The infamous they, the globalists, the people running the world, are not going to give up on that platform. They're just not. So we've got a situation now where we have to really recognize that this is something that is it's just not okay. But they're going to move forward in any way that they can to preserve that platform while still trying to shut the rest of us up who are talking about it. How do you do that? Well, you have a big show. Maybe you even charge Fauci criminally with something like contempt of Congress and give him, 3 months probation or something, right? Oh, we've convicted Fauci. Everything's good now, right? Now, they're not going to, I think they'll throw Fauci under the bus, but I don't think that they will throw him completely under the bus. I mean, he's not going to go to jail for the rest of his life. He's got too much info. He'd spill the beans. So I think that this whole thing with Rand Paul and Fauci is a show. And if it's not, then I want to see what they're going to do on the mRNA. Because if they bring this up and they don't talk about the mRNA, then it's a show. It's just a show. Mark my words. That is how you determine whether this is for real or not. If they bring up the COVID jabs and the mRNA platform and the dangers with that, the lies, Pfizer, Moderna, then there might be something real going on. But I will bet you dimes to dollars that nothing about any of that is talked about or discussed, and that instead you just hear a bunch of nonsense. Fauci contempt, he lied, he perjured himself, stuff that they can give him deferred sensing that's completely meaningless. Now, let's take this a step further, right? Bobby has this big report coming out on vaccines, and it's wonderful. And God bless Bobby for what he's doing. You're going to see the ties between Big Pharma's vaccines and autism. You're going to see the ties between the vaccines and a bunch of things. What does that do? What does it do? Let's think about this, folks. Let's think about what this really does. Well, what it does is it creates a situation where we have to get rid of the current vaccines because, look, they were right. They're not safe. Omaha celebrates. Everybody celebrates. Yay, we're getting rid of the vaccines. But guess what's there to replace it? The new generation of vaccines. Did you see the bug-based vaccines? Have you seen the mRNA, the saRNA, the plasmid RNA, or plasmid DNA, the DNA vaccine, all circle RNA, all these different things? All these new generation of gene therapy drugs that modify the human genome and just do all sorts of terrible things that we don't even understand are going to be there to replace it. Now, I said a number of years ago, you're going to see a situation where we're going to see the replacement of the current vaccine regime with all gene therapy drugs or similar things. It's going to happen, folks. It is going to happen. It's underway. And I think you're going to see, I mean, listen, if they can save some of the vaccines, that's fine, but it doesn't look like they can. The old vaccines are not safe and they're not effective. And I think Trump knows that. But I think Trump's been lied to about the mRNA. So, Trump is okay moving to an mRNA platform, if the science shows. But I don't think that anybody's letting Bobby do his work on the mRNA properly. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Bobby can prove that I'm wrong. But I just don't see it. So I think that a lot of what's happening is you're going to see this war on vaccines, which we're all going to cheer, including myself. I'm very happy to see this. And so let's talk about this because Bobby just comes up he's on Tucker, right? He does a 90-minute interview with Tucker. That's huge. And he goes through a bunch of things. I'm going to talk about the 1135 thing and the autism thing. That's a big deal, right? But let's talk about some other things. He talks about the pediatricians kicking you out of your practice if you don't get vaccines. Why is that? Well, because over half their revenue comes from vaccines. Some pediatricians, their offices, as much as 80 or 90% of their income comes from vaccines, kickbacks on vaccines. Same with cancer, by the way, folks. Your doctors make their money off of chemo. Vaccines fund pediatrics. Pediatricians are not going to take care of you if you aren't taking your vaccines. And they've got goals. If too many of their patients aren't getting a vaccine, well, then they're not eligible for certain bonuses, right? So these pediatricians do this. Their job is to push vaccines, right? When we talk about, Bobby then goes on, he talks about other things, right? So the DTaP and some of these others, they found links with autism. But when they looked at VAERS and some of these other things, but CDC says, well, VAERS doesn't work, right? VAERS doesn't work. So we don't want to look at VAERS. VAERS has only a 1% reporting. Everybody knows VAERS garbage. Actually, as a lawyer, did you guys know that as an attorney, VAERS is almost useless as evidence in court? It's unreliable. It's been ruled to be unreliable over and over again. VAERS is just nonsensical. It can provide statistical signals, but without hard data to back it up, it's very easy to argue that VAERS is not real good data. Now, interestingly, CDC, according to Bobby, they did do some studies, and they found that 1 in 37 vaccines caused an injury. 1 in 37. That is a huge number. And so CDC killed the program and killed everything on that and hid it all. They didn't want to show that. They didn't want people to see that, right? When you start seeing 1 in 37, that is a huge number. That's a crazy high number, right? But instead, so they kill the system that finds that truth out, and instead they stick with VAERS because it doesn't show anything. And this is one of the key secrets to the CDC. What they do is they avoid studying anything that they don't want the answer to. They know that vaccines cause problems. They just kill studies or manipulate studies that talk about that because they don't want you to know it. So, Bobby goes through this and he talks about everything. And, he goes through, one of the things he points out is that the Pfizer trials, you had a 23% higher death rate in the vaccinated group than the unvaccinated group over a certain period of time, right? This is insane. 23% is not a coincidence. It's not a random correlation. 23% is a huge difference, right? Paul Osfet, right? This guy that's running around this crook. So he was involved with creating the rotavirus. He votes to put the rotavirus vaccine on the childhood vaccine schedule because he's part of ACIP. He's got a rotavirus vaccine. The guy's made hundreds of millions of dollars off of this. Basically, from top to bottom, Kennedy just ripped apart what's going on. And by the way, he also talks about Ralph Baric, who, I happen to be one of the guys that blew the whistle on. Ralph Baric from UNC, who developed a technique that makes it hard to determine whether a virus was created in the lab or not. Why do you need to do that? Why do you need a technique to hide it? Why would you do that unless you're doing bioweapon research, right? But that's part of what Baric did. By the way, he was involved in the COVID research, just FYI. Not saying that they were creating a bioweapon there, but they were creating a bioweapon there. Ralph Baric, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, they call it the seamless ligation technique, and it hides DNA sequences being integrated in for bioweapons development. You can normally see that, but the way he did this makes it harder to see, right? Again, he was tied in with EcoHealth and this whole COVID scheme. I mean, folks, come on. Bobby likes Trump. That's a good thing. That's good to hear. He believes that Trump is on it. Lots of good things to say about Bobby, but I want to talk about this 1,135% thing, right? Let's get into that a little bit. So Bobby comes out and he talks about this 1,135%. Google won't even talk about it. Let me show you. I did about 50 searches with Google, and they all just lie about it. Just lie. Google's AI outright lies about it. I used a bunch of AI engines, and Grok lied about it. Grok lied about it endlessly. But after arguing with a bunch of AI engines far enough, I found out a couple different things. Now, Bobby talks about this 1,135% increase in autism, and it's based on data from a study. Now, the final study, when it was published, did not conclude that there was an 1,135% increase in autism in vaccinated. It didn't. But Bobby said in the interview, he said that's because they whitewashed the data for the final study. So Bobby looked at the study, said the study was was finalized incorrectly intentionally because they whitewashed the data. What was that based on? Well, Bobby said that they excluded a number of the participants. So there are a whole bunch of people that were excluded from that study. And those people were the ones that would have shown the autism, and they excluded them for just BS reasons, right? So this is a very big deal because, if you've got people being excluded from a study to whitewash the data, well, that's outright corruption. Now, when you search on Google or even, pick your AI, the AI will tell you the final version of this study said that there was no link between vaccines and autism. Well, here's the deal. Bobby's specific allegation was that the link was whitewashed. So they didn't bother looking at that. They didn't bother addressing that. They didn't bother with anything. Instead, what they do is they whitewash it. Folks, this is insanity. They whitewashed it. So here's the deal. Bobby says that they whitewashed this study by excluding participants from the original data set to reduce the raw autism risk. Now, this ends up aligning with a 2005 congressional statement by Dan Burton, who said the same thing. right? So RFK then also referenced a 2014 claim by CDC scientists that alleged that key data from another study was also done that way. We've got a bunch of stuff that corroborates what Bobby's saying, yet the AI pretends like there's nothing there. Why is AI doing that? Well, AI is corrupt, much like everything else, but this whole thing's been whitewashed. The 1135% thing is probably dead accurate, but it's been whitewashed, and AI is lying to you about it. So don't grok it. Don't Google it. Don't any of these. They're going to lie to you about this unless you know how to ask the right questions. If you don't know how to understand study design, and if you don't know how to query it the right way, the AI is going to lie to you on this. And even if you do know, they're still going to lie to you. You've got to question it into a corner and make it tell you the truth. You can do that, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's a very difficult thing to do. You've got to know what you're doing to be able to do this. AI can help and can get you the data, but it can only get you the data if you have enough information to force it to give you the truth. It doesn't want to get caught lying. If it gets caught lying, that's no good. It's got to maintain its appearance of credibility. So for whatever reason, that's how it works. But let me suggest this, because we're coming up to the end of the show and I'm going to run out of time here. Why is it that all of this stuff that we've known for a long time is coming out now? What's changed? Why is it happening now? Listen, why is Bobby allowed to find out all this data about these old vaccines, but he can't touch anything with the mRNA, the gene therapy, nothing there. We're still fast tracking Arcturus. We're still pushing all these different things. Why is that? I pose to you this. The goal is to push the mRNA platform. I think we'll see some people thrown under the bus for COVID. I think the old vaccines will largely be thrown under the bus. I think you're going to see all sorts of things happen. It will all be replaced by gene therapy platforms and a new generation of much more dangerous vaccines. They will be far more dangerous, but they will be far more difficult to demonstrate the danger. You'll see delayed reactions. You'll see different things that trigger it. There are a lot of things being built into this new generation of vaccines. And trust me when I tell you, folks, it's going to be bad news. We'll see if I'm right. Make sure that you're sharing. Make sure that you're following. Please help us share and follow the show. Appreciate you guys all being here. I love you guys. I appreciate everything you do. And please continue following us. We'll be back very soon.